Hey, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Hopefully you've had a chance to watch the first couple of sessions that we had. We just want to take a minute to kind of recap for you what we covered in that time. We hope that you've had a chance to just sort of dream together as a family to talk about vision. What would it look like for you to be the primary disciple makers of your kids? Hopefully you've had those conversations as parents or with other people in your spiritual family, just to think through, like, is this something that you really want, that you're going after and that you're pursuing? So we hope that you've had a chance to just kind of think about that and just envision what your kids might look like 20 years from now as devoted followers of Jesus. And so in this video, we want to talk about what it actually means to be spiritual parents to your kids. What do we mean by that when we say you are the primary disciple maker, that you are called to be the spiritual parent over your child or your children? And the place that we want to start is we want to say none of this really matters if you're not doing it yourself. That you first have to be a follower of Jesus, that your relationship with God matters to your kids.
Yeah. It helps me to think about, what do I need to take responsibility for? So I can't take responsibility for what my kids will do with all of this down the road. So I have no control over their future. That's between them and the Lord. But I can take responsibility for setting the spiritual climate and the temperature of our home right now. That's something I can take responsibility for. It's my responsibility and our responsibility as a couple to set that spiritual temperature in our household. And then the second thing I can take responsibility for is really actually the most important thing in the whole process, is how am I pursuing God? Because that's something I am really responsible for. No one else can do that for me, and us doing that together. So how can we take responsibility for how we're pursuing God? And that's really important, because our pursuit of the Lord produces change in us. It actually changes us. As we learn who God is, and as we grow in our relationship with Him, we become more like Him. And that's a necessary change that we need as parents. And the side benefit, or the benefit for our kids, is that we actually can become better parents. The best parents I know are the most godly people that I know. And so as I'm pursuing my relationship with the Lord, I'm being changed and I'm becoming a better parent to my kids. And then the benefit of that is that our kids get to see what is an example of a person who's following Jesus. What does that actually look like? And so kind of the end game of it all is that I'm a better parent, and that my kids get to witness what does it look like to be a follower of Jesus.
And when we talk about being an example, we don't mean being a perfect example, because that is something that's unattainable for any of us. But what we're talking about is being a living example for our kids. We are the biggest influence in our kids' spiritual life and spiritual development. What they see in our home, what they see us doing or not doing, will influence their worldview, will influence what they think it means to be a man or a woman of God. It will influence the way that they pray and the way they worship, the way they think about God, and the way that they think about the world. And so we're not talking about doing this perfectly. We're talking about being surrendered to the Lord in every aspect of our lives and living that out loud for our kids, like that our kids will see us passionately pursuing God and making mistakes along the way. So I can remember a couple of years ago with Chloe feeling like I was just in this rut of like constantly making mistakes with her and constantly apologizing for it, which is really critical. It's like really key that she sees me asking for forgiveness. But I just felt so guilty about that. Like, why can't I get this right? And I remember Chael saying, like, yeah, it's important for her to see you ask for forgiveness, but it's also important for her to learn how to extend grace. And I thought, oh yeah, there's still a lesson in this for her too. It's not all about me just screwing up and having to ask for forgiveness, but her seeing that and then also learning how to extend grace and extend forgiveness to other people. And so those are the kinds of things that we're talking about, the day-to-day, the little moments in between where you're living your life for Jesus on display for your kids.
Yeah, we all know, for better or worse, we all take on the habits and things that we've seen in our parents. And so all of those good traits, like, that's great that you have a lot of those things you picked up from your mom and dad, and probably some of those things that you wish weren't there too. And so why not be intentional about this process and make sure that the thing we're passing on to our kids is an authentic relationship with Jesus, which includes lots of kind of mountaintops, we hope, but also some valleys. And so we can pursue those things together. We need our kids to see our failures as well as our victories, because whatever they see in us, they're going to assume is normal, and they're going to either choose to pursue that or run away from it. And I want my kids to say, man, my mom and dad were people we want to be like. I mean, that's my goal. So I think there are three kind of key aspects to being a spiritual parent. So here they are. They're really simple, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is what he's saying. They're so simple. The first one is to know the heart of God, not just to know about God, not just to be able to quote some scriptures, but to know what our Father is really like. To know the heart of God is the most important thing that we can do. It's important for us, and it's important for our kids. The second thing is to know the heart of our children, or know the heart of your children, to know how God has wired them, how he's made them, how are they unique and different. Because if we don't know that, we're going to be trying to conform them into an image of what we think that they should be, or what so-and-so's kids are like. And that's not what our job is. Our job is to know the heart of our kids and how God has uniquely made them. So we know the heart of God, we know the heart of our kids, and then third, we've got to know the heart of God for our kids. That's the third piece of it. It's like the first thing and the second thing come together in the third, to know the heart of God for our kids. Now, I'll tell you, there are so many great resources out there for how do you know God's heart. So we're not going to try to cover all of that here. There are lots of great resources out there for how do you know the heart of the the heart of your kids, and that's like you can go out and find those resources. It's that third piece of trying to figure out kind of what is God's heart for your kids that you have to discover as a family, I think, and then some of the things we're going to talk about in upcoming videos will be helpful.
Yeah, so our next steps are we're going to talk about predictable patterns. So one of the very first steps in becoming spiritual parents and really walking in that role is developing predictable patterns as a family. So in the next video, we're going to dive into that with you guys a little bit more.